Today I will talk about HTTP. HTTP is the short form of Hypertext Transfer Protocol. And when we say hypertext, it means that this protocol was designed initially to transfer the hypertext documents. And hypertext documents are nothing but your HTML. And hypertext actually means that you have one document and you can have different links to other documents. So in a typical HTML page, you have, let us say, a link, you click on the link, you are taken to maybe a different page, and you may have another link which will take you maybe to a separate page, which is again back to the original, which is again linked back to the original HTML page. So these documents are actually linked to each other, and this protocol HTTP was actually designed in 1989. And when this protocol was designed, there used to be one protocol called FTP, which is a file transfer protocol, and that protocol is still used. So using FTP, you can definitely transfer files, but HTTP was designed specifically for web pages. And there are a few things which I want to talk about today, but just to let you know, in today's internet world, HTTP is probably the major protocol which is used, I believe, in more than 90% of the cases, even more than 95%. But it is probably something that you are already aware of. Even if you are not from a technical background, I'm sure if you open a website, your browser will prefix this HTTP in front of the URL. So URL is again a very interesting concept, and we say URL and we say website or website name or the address of the website, but the full form of URL is Uniform Resource Locator, and it is basically a string. It is basically the name of the resource that you're trying to access. So when we say URL, this is something like www.google.com, and the most fundamental concept of HTTP protocol or HTTP itself is client-server model. So you have one client. Let us say you have this laptop, your computer, and when you are trying to access a website, you are basically trying to make a connection to a server. So you have this server, and when you send a request to this server, you are basically using the URL of a particular website, let us say google.com, and when you open this URL on your computer, on your laptop, you get the response back. So this response is actually the website or the web page that you will get on your laptop. And the way this particular model works is there's also a concept of stateless transaction. So HTTP protocol is a stateless protocol because when you are making this transaction or when you are requesting something or a resource from the server, you get the response back, and this whole transaction is independent from the second transaction that you will make, or maybe the third transaction. So whenever you're trying to access or whenever you're trying to request something from the server, let us say you open google.com, and first response you will get is the actual web page. And when you get the web page or the homepage of google.com, you will see the search box, and then you will probably type something on the search box, like for example, you want to search for some images, or maybe you are trying to find some information, and you will again send another request to Google. And whenever these transactions are happening, these transactions are stateless because one transaction is actually independent from the another transaction. And one example is that, let us say your server or your client, either of these machines, they go down. Maybe the server is down, or maybe your laptop is out of battery, or you're disconnected from the internet. Then both the machines, or in case of your laptop is going down, your server, in this case, let us say the server of Google, they don't need to remember the transaction that you made earlier, because when your laptop is again back up or again connected to the internet, you will probably make another transaction. And this is important because if both the server and client they try to remember the state of previous transactions, then it will be very cumbersome. And that is why the HTTP protocol itself is stateless. It was designed so that there is no need to remember the previous transaction state. However, these days, when you talk about the websites, for example, Facebook.com or any shopping websites, they use some other methods to remember the person or the user who is trying to access the portal. For example, there is a concept of session variables, there is a concept of cookies, and using these methods, they can actually enrich the experience of the user. They can also collect some information from your laptop, and based on your browsing patterns, based on the things you're searching, they will recommend you the right product. But however, but these concepts are something that are separate from the protocol itself, because when we talk about HTTP, the protocol itself is stateless, and when we talk about the fundamentals of these of HTTP protocol, it is purely client and server stateless protocol. And just to let you know, in case you are also interested in understanding the networking concepts, because eventually when we talk about internet, when we talk about HTML, or when we talk about web pages, we are actually working in the range or domain of networking. And there is an OSI model, and when we talk about OSI model, the HTTP protocol actually is actually working at the application level of OSI model. And since we are talking about OSI, I'll make another video where I'll talk about the details of OSI, and I'll try to give you some explanation of different protocols that work at different layers of OSI. But just to let you know, the HTTP protocol works at the application level. And there are some other concepts like client actions. For example, right now when you're requesting something from the server, you're actually trying to get something, and there are some things like get, post, put, and we also have delete. So these are different client actions or verbs, and I talked about them briefly in my video where I talked about REST API. But these are the most common actions, client actions that you will be using in case you want to know more about HTTP. And finally, I want to talk about the concept of the status codes in HTML. So when you request something from the server will of course send you back the information if it can. However, sometimes let us say there is a problem with the server, or maybe the server is down. So you will also get a response code or a status code. So we have various codes that can actually tell you what exactly is happening with your request. So any code that starts with 100 is actually informational. So this is for information. Then we have 200 something, and these status codes are basically telling you that the transaction was successful. Then we have status codes with 300 something, and these are basically for redirection. So let us say you are trying to request a web page, but the web page is trying to redirect you to maybe a different domain. So you will get this 300 something. Then we have 400 something, and this actually means that there is an error at the client side. And similarly, we have 500 something. This will actually tell you that there is an error at the server side. So when we talk about HTML, or when we talk about HTTP, so just to do a quick recap, it is a client-server model. It is a stateless protocol. It is working at the application layer of OSI model. you have different client actions like get, post, put, and delete, and you also have the status codes. So HTTP is one of the most fundamental and important concept or important protocol that you should be aware of in case you are interested in doing web development. So I hope this video was useful. Thank you very much.